David, a legal firestorm could lead to new trials for hundreds of convicts in Mississippi. There are questions about the former state pathologist, and his testimony could uproot more than 1,000 cases.
16 WABT's Meg Pace is live tonight from the State Crime Lab. And Meg, I understand time is running out in one of these cases where a man is sitting on death row.
That's right, Darren. His name is Jeffrey Havard, and it's a case out of Natchez. But the pathologist who performed the autopsy in that murder case, his testimony is now under fire.
I'm not one to really use the language, but it's pure hell knowing that unless something comes about, that he could be laying there, you know, and be put to death for something that didn't happen.
In 2002, an Adams County jury convicted Jeffrey Havard in the murder of 6-month-old Chloe Britt, his ex-girlfriend's baby. Back then, Dr. Steven Hayne performed nearly every autopsy in Mississippi.
They just wanted a conviction, and they used a lot of this to, you know, and I feel like they used Dr. Haynes to get their convictions.
Former State Supreme Court Justice Oliver Diaz says Haynes' testimony that Havard molested and murdered that baby went unchallenged because the public defender couldn't afford a second exam. Havard claims the little girl died when he dropped her during a bath.
He was denied the use of his own expert in that case. But they allowed the state to proffer Dr. Hayne as an expert for the state.
Diaz was one of 2 justices who voted to throw out that conviction in a 2006 appeal, but in the end, the majority of the high court upheld the death sentence.
I think there probably are people in prison who have not committed the crime that they're convicted of committing.
Now, a decade later, Dr. Steven Hayne is the subject of a huge legal fight. Hayne claims his office performed up to 1,600 autopsies a year between 1987 and 2008. But if he worked 7 days a week with no vacations and no weekends off, that would mean he signed off on or performed more than 4 autopsies every single day for 21 years. In the handbook for the Association of Medical Examiners, it says no pathologist should perform more than 325 autopsies a year.
You don't have to worry no more.
This was the emotional scene in 2008 after a judge exonerated LaVon Brooks and Kennedy Brewer. Both men spent more than 15 years in prison because of testimonies by Hayne. In 2 separate murder trials, Hayne and forensic dentist Michael West testified that they found men's teeth on young girls. But later, a group called the Innocence Project uncovered DNA evidence that proved Hayne and West were wrong.
I hope I do that. They don't lock no innocent people up no more.
After that case, the state removed Hayne from his post as a state pathologist. Now lawyers from the Innocence Project say hundreds of convictions could be in jeopardy. For weeks, we've been trying to speak with Dr. Hayne about his hundreds of cases that could be thrown out. Could we come in and talk to you for a couple of minutes? At the gates outside his home, he declined an interview but spoke to CNN earlier this year.
I don't think there are errors in my work. I don't support a DA if he wants to charge a person with a crime. I don't think a crime was committed.
Meantime, the state has revamped how they handle investigations.
Now the crime lab is fully staffed.
The Department of Public Safety says the state crime lab still has a very large caseload, but all that work is split up by 3 state pathologists.
Between the 3 physicians, it's spread out pretty evenly and certainly within the standards.
Do you have more confidence in the way things are investigated now versus when Dr. Hayne was in that role?
We have taken steps, but we haven't done enough. And one of the main things we need to do is review the cases in which Dr. Hayne had testified in at trial.
Family members say Jeffrey Havard's time is running out. The 34-year-old has already spent a decade on death row.
He's scared because time is getting closer.
Former Supreme Court Justice Oliver Diaz is now working. He's on the board with the Mississippi Innocence Project. That's the group out of Ole Miss Law School that's working to fight several of these convictions. And here at the Crime Lab, they're now also working with the Innocence Project on some of these convictions. Reporting live in Jackson, Meg Pace, 16 WAPT News.
Oh, fascinating, Meg. And we asked Attorney General Jim Hood if his office would be investigating Dr. Hayne. He told us in a statement, quote, "This office did review a limited number of cases. We did not find any evidence to support the pursuit of criminal charges. Our office has the singular responsibility to not only ensure that the guilty are punished, but that the innocent are set free."